Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. Okay, let's talk about these margins then, as they are becoming insane. I know I say these things might happen and try and forecast and predict what Tesla does, and it sounds unbelievable, even though that's where the evidence points. So we tend to think this is what will happen. But even though we expect it to happen, even when it happens, I'm still blown away. I don't take anything Tesla do lightly. I might expect a lot from them in my predictions, but I'm still aware they are breaking the boundaries, and I'm always impressed, even if they fall short of my predictions. Tesla's objective is to remove as much of the cost of ownership of a vehicle as possible. I'm not even just talking about the production cost either, but the overall cost of ownership. Well, what's the biggest cost of owning a car? By far it's depreciation. Teslas don't depreciate, or at least significantly less than any other brand. In fact, they often do the very opposite, and actually appreciate, if you can believe that. But is depreciation out of Tesla's control? Tesla don't get to decide how much their cars depreciate, the market does, right? Or can Tesla have an effect on that too? Well, don't forget that a 2017 Model 3 can pretty much do everything a 2021 Model 3 can do. Okay, they may not have the heat pump, octavalve, self-closing trunk, or that awesome chrome delete, but the rest of the features are pretty much all there. That would therefore keep the car current and help with depreciation, compared to buying a used BMW that still has a built-in DVD player or something that is totally antiquated. Okay, the next largest cost of owning a car is obviously the fuel, and we know Teslas don't need any fuel. Again, a major cost of ownership removed. Next would be insurance, and as we know, Tesla know how much safer Teslas are better than any other insurance company, and would therefore be able to offer the most competitive rates. But of course it doesn't stop there either, as Tesla also know how likely you are to get in an accident based on your driving. If you have a safety score of 100, then I can't imagine how low your insurance premiums might be. It could be crazy low. Of course, Tesla's overheads are going to be so much lower than the likes of Geico. Can you imagine how much better a job Tesla can do in insurance? The next cost is servicing. Teslas don't have any oil that needs to be changed regularly. Of course, there are engine repairs and maintenance too, which, depending on your car, could escalate costs significantly. Tesla doesn't have an engine either. Just about the only cost Tesla hasn't removed yet is the car to clean itself. You still need to take the car to get washed or wash it yourself, but perhaps there may be some way we can clean the car with lasers or something in the future. Although I'm not sure how good lasers would be on the paintwork. Anyway, they're the major costs of ownership. And then there is the cost of the car too. Tesla is relentlessly looking at ways of reducing the cost of the car to levels that no other auto manufacturer could come close to. For example, Tesla removed the lumbar adjustment from the passenger vehicle because their data detected that very few people will be ever using it. Remove it, and then you save more cost on production. Obviously, Tesla recently removed the radar from the vehicles, as FSD is so amazing it can run on vision only, and this is a continuous process. Tesla make 27 production changes a week, compared to 3 production changes from Ford and GM a year. 3 production changes a year compared to 27 a week. Of course, we're seeing the gigapresses. The fact that the rear die-cast gigapress removed 300 robots is incredible, and I assume the front one removed a similar number of robots too. Oh right, it's not just about reducing cost, but also increasing velocity of the production line. Well, increasing velocity whilst shortening the line, so the cars come off the line faster and faster. And we've heard it takes 10 hours for a Model 3 to be produced on the production line, compared to a Volkswagen ID3 at 30 hours. Of course, Tesla managed to make a computer in that time, and Volkswagen just electrified a bunch of stuff. But all these cost savings are somewhat minimal when you compare it to the cost of the battery pack. I think Tesla are paying about $142 per kilowatt hour for 2170 batteries, and around $100 a kilowatt hour for CATL's LFP batteries. So even a standard range Model 3 with LFP batteries likely has a battery pack that is possibly still around $7,000. Now, I know we're not at 30% margin for Model 3s yet, but obviously if they had front and rear die casts and were produced in Texas, then there would easily be a 30% margin. Oh yeah, the Model 3 and Texas, that was a bit strange, right? Tesla announced the Model 3 was going to be produced in Texas, a rumour I also heard a long time ago, but then Tesla removed the mention of the Model 3. Maybe that was a little glimpse for the fanboys who noticed these things. Anyway, say a 40,000 Model 3 with 30% margin would cost $28,000 to produce. If that is the case, then the battery pack is still 1/4 the cost of the car, one element costing that much. Well, don't you think Tesla will be willing to do anything they could to reduce that cost? Of course, which is why they're going to produce their own LFP batteries. We hear that the 4680 batteries could get down to an unbelievable $55 per kilowatt hour at the pack level.
So how much less could Tesla get their own in-house LFP batteries? Surely $35 wouldn't be unreasonable to assume. Of course, we'd expect Tesla's LFP batteries to have higher energy density than the other LFP batteries, implying less battery weight is required for the same power. So if Tesla made a standard range Model 3 with their own batteries and only used a 50 kilowatt-hour battery pack, then 50 times $35, well, that comes to $1,750. I mean, even if we rounded it up to $2,000, then that's a saving of $5,000. And this saving comes for their cheapest model available. This takes the cost from $28,000 to $23,000. It takes the gross margin from 30% to 42.5%. That is over a 40% better margin. Tesla already has industry record-breaking margins, yet the fact they're still able to improve them by a further 40% just from making one element of the car in-house is shocking. But it goes beyond that when you take it to the bottom line, as that 12.5% extra margin goes straight to earnings before tax. In other words, that change alone could end up increasing net profits a further 50% or something if it was felt across the entire model range, just like that, by Tesla creating this new battery. Okay, so what's 50% extra profits worth to Tesla? If Tesla were earning $100 billion net profit, and that was improved by 50% with said batteries, then that's worth $50 billion a year. Okay, Tesla's own in-house LFP batteries could be worth $50 billion a year. Even at a P ratio of 50, well, that makes the batteries worth $2.5 trillion. That's right, Tesla could just about justify $2.5 trillion in R&D, factories, mines, iron smelting and production lines to get their own in-house LFP batteries. Yet, the amount they're spending to achieve this is almost negligible relative to these numbers. That's how much extra profit Tesla could get from their currently lowest margin vehicle. What about one of the higher end vehicles, say a long range Model Y? Let's go through the same scenario and say there is a 30% margin on a Model Y long range. At a $55,000 sticker price, that equates to a $38,500 production cost. I think we would assume the profit margin is likely higher on the long range, but we're just going with numbers indicatively to show what happens when we reduce the cost of the batteries. If we used 4680 structural battery pack in lieu of the 75 kilowatt hour 2170 battery pack, fewer batteries would be required due to the extra efficiencies and weight savings, so perhaps a 70 kilowatt hour battery pack is sufficient, and we're aiming to get 4680 batteries to $55 per kilowatt hour. That's about $4,000, down from about $11,000, a $7,000 saving. The cost coming down from $38,500 to $31,500. Again, we're at a 42.5% margin. I mean, I would say it sounds like we're already at a 30% margin in China, and the new factories are going to have a higher margin again without even including the battery savings. So I think this could even be argued as a little conservative. It really doesn't appear like Tesla need to reduce their prices. In fact, they're even increasing their prices. And on the earnings call, they said how Tesla was a lot more transparent in their price increases when compared to other manufacturers. And they also said that the price increases weren't just for component shortages, but actually trying to find the right mix for supply and demand, or getting as close to the market clearing price as they can, which is what I've been saying. I thought they were just using the component shortages as an excuse, but they were happy to admit they raised the prices because of demand too. Fair enough, it's an incredibly good value product. Anyway, 42.5% margin pretty much if Tesla used their own in-house batteries with today's manufacturing, but we have tomorrow's manufacturing to come, or more like next month's really. Surely a front die-cast mold is going to add at least one more percentage onto margin. At least, right? I don't know for sure, but it sounds highly likely. I would have thought a lot more really. I mean, look how much Tesla have doubled down on gigapresses. I don't think they would do that if it wasn't for a good reason. Gigapresses are seriously cool, and I can't believe how excited and interested Tesla got me into manufacturing. Could the new factories actually get to 45% gross margin? I don't mean immediately, but perhaps by 2024 or so. Oh, and this is just the advancements that we know. There's going to be more improvements along the way too. Is it possible Tesla could get to 50% even? I think Tesla could create a medium-range version of the Model Y using LFP batteries, for example. I think there will be a sweet spot around 280 to 300 miles of range with LFP battery. Perhaps that could actually approach a 50% margin on such a model. This is just in production I'm referring to. There's all the other vertical integration still to come, and who knows, replacing labour with robots too. I think I'm going to start running some models of when Tesla are at the full capacity with all their existing factories, including Berlin and Texas, and see what numbers we can come up with. I think it's time to revise what this company is worth again. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.